NG Poland and JS Poland conferences are coming soon. This year promises to be exceptional. We will see the Angular team on the stage. We will see Quick Creator, Solid JS Creator, experts from Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Cisco, Auth0 and many more. Join an amazing group of developers like you today. Let's come together to celebrate Angular and JavaScript. Go to ngpoland.pl and sign up now. What's up everyone, this is Dariusz Kalbarczyk, co-founder of MG Poland, JS Poland, AngularMaster.dev and WorkshopFest.dev. Welcome back to Angular Master Podcast. Today, together with Nir Kaufman, who is an excellent speaker, trainer, GDE, vegan like me, Frontend Tech Lead at Next Insurance, we will talk about front-end development today. Hi Nir, how are you?
Hey. I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, so before we dive into the world of technology, for those who don't know you yet, please tell us about yourself.
About myself, so I've been a software developer for, I believe, almost 18 years. Yeah, I'm a little bit old. Doesn't always look like this. In the front-end business for the past 12 years, just because I like it. I started building UI with old technologies like Flash and Flex, and before front-end developer was even a thing. And most of the time, that's what I'm doing because my job is my hobby, and my hobby is my job. So they're mixed together. And to make it even more fun, I really love to share my knowledge in any opportunity that I get, which means that working with the community and meet new people and, learn from others. So basically, I'm 100% into coding because I like it. And maybe later on, I will tell you how I combine it with the other hobbies.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I've got some fancy titles. If you like, Google Developer Expert, I wrote some books, I did some stuff, but I'm not too much into titles. If you're listening to this and you want to learn more about the technical spec, just look for me on LinkedIn. And if you want to see all the fun part, look for me on Facebook.
Can you say something more about the books you have written?
Yeah, actually, it was a little bit long ago. I think, if I remember right, I had the opportunity to author 3 books, 2 of them on Angular. One of them was when Angular just came out. I think it was about the new Angular components. And then one about reactive forms. And one which got the title Thinking in Redux, which is like vanilla JavaScript and new approach in Redux. It was a very, very interesting experience because I don't write blog posts. I love to share my knowledge through talks. I don't do blog posts. I don't even do open source. I mean, that's my contribution is just talking with people. So yeah, these books, Thinking in Redux and Reactive Form, both of them are free and available. And I'll be more than happy if you check it out, if you give me some feedback, and if it helped you, amazing.
We will add links to your books in the description of this podcast. How did you start your adventure in programming?
Actually, I started as a musician. That was the beginning. But in some point, I had a recording studio. And it was the 90s, early 2000, I believe, when I was 17, 18. And obviously, I started working with computers in my recording studio. And I found myself looking for ways to leverage technology to make music. I did rock and roll, not electronic music at all. but I got into keyboards and MIDI programming and to find a way to improve my creative workflow. So I think that was the first step that bring me into technology and programming in general, because reading music notes, I found a lot of similarity with code, with thinking about code. I know that code is science and music is art. And later on, I wrote my first Photoshop plugin, which is like a completely different hobby, which is photography. And that was the turning point. That was my first UI. And then I understand that I really enjoy creating, and I found it amazing that you can just write some sentences in English and create pieces of software which is useful for something. And since then, I'm coding. So I wasn't bored with a keyboard in my hand. It didn't start at school. It was just a natural, I think, journey into coding. Yeah, that's the beginning.
Why did you choose to master Angular?
Oh, Angular chose me. I didn't choose Angular. I'm kidding. No, it was like my first. I think it was my first role as a front-end developer. It was a very bad company, actually. They hired me. I was the only front-end developer to build some very, very, very simple website with jQuery, and I got bored. And AngularJS just came out, and I decided to I just picked it up and decided, well, that looks like a promising technology. Although before it, I used Flex and I used Flash and I used Backbone and I used other frameworks, but something in Angular looks very slick. Maybe because it's because it was Google and a nice logo, and that was the reason. So I didn't choose it like as a strategy or because of any special reason. I looked for a new framework to learn and to master, and it was just I was in the right place in the right time. And since then, it's just for 12 years of Angular in a row, very intensive. So I always saying is not that I choose Angular, it was there, and it was the perfect time for me because I was ready to dive deeper into the world of these shiny frameworks, and Angular was in front of my eyes.
So what is your opinion of front-end development today?
That's a great question because like I mentioned before, because I'm kind of, I'm kidding, yeah, but because I'm an old front-end developer who started before front-end development was even a thing. So today, when I look at my career and on front-end development in general, my opinion is that we took it too far. It became very, very complicated to build web applications. We build mighty tools. We built mighty frameworks. It just seems, when I think about the complexity of web apps that I built 12 years ago, it was almost the same complexity in most systems, not all of them, but the tools was very, very straightforward. I mean, most of the time it was just server-side rendering. And if you needed some interactivity, so few lines of JavaScript, and no bundlers, no Webpack, no thinking about single-page applications, lazy loading. So my opinion today is that we need to as the ecosystem, we need to take a step back. We need to rethink, I believe, how did we get here? Why is it so complicated? Is there any chance that we created our own problems? Like, it seems like that every framework, obviously it's got some pros and cons, but every framework introduces new problems and then try to solve them. And then there's a new library or a new tool that trying to keep and solve the problems that the previous tools created. So I'm not very happy with the current mode of front-end development. And actually, to be honest, recently I started to talk a lot about is front-end development is still a thing? Aren't we just, software developers, web developers? I mean, most of the front-end developers that I know, in their day-to-day job, in their project, needs to and have knowledge to work with Node.js, for example. Does it mean they are full-stack developers? What is a full stack? A lot of developers today, one of the requirements is to know a lot about DevOps in a way. You need to be familiar with development environment, with Kubernetes, with a lot of other technologies. So yeah. So today I think that it's today I'm dealing a lot with a lot of questions. Have we took it too far? Have we made it like too complicated? I just want to build a customer portal for my amazing company. Do I really need video courses and learn about these frameworks and these tools and these patterns and this architecture? The application itself is very simple. 2 days ago, I participated to a conference called the JavaScript Global Summit. And the theme was life outside of the major frameworks, the popular frameworks. So I took this opportunity and I talked about Backbone.js. So they will publish this in some point. I'll share the link with the community if someone finds it interesting, because it was a very, very nice experience to talk and show a little bit code on this kind of old MVC framework in 2022, because it gives you like a perspective and you look at this and say, hey, wait a second, I understand MVC. It's a little bit of JavaScript and it works. And it was 12 years ago, and now we've got Angular and Vue and Svelte and compilers and you name it. So,
what do you think about the new features and the future of Angular?
It's a hard question for me, because I'm involved in Angular. I'm involved in my day-to-day work. I work with Angular for a lot of years. So it's not that I think that there's something wrong with the framework. I've got mixed feeling about the direction that the framework takes. For example, in Angular 14, we introduced the inject function was introduced. So you don't need any more. You don't need the constructor of your classes in order to inject some code in your system. You can just write functions. So Angular, in one hand, it gives us the opportunity to use functions and composition. But on the other hand, I really like the fact that Angular keep everything kind of like consistent. You've got classes, you've got constructors, dependency injections can work with constructors, and it's, for me anyway, it's easy to think about it. And I'm a little bit worried that new Angular developers these days gonna get a little bit confused, because they're gonna get some mixed experience of, we use classes, that's the syntax, that's how Angular works. So if I want to create a component, a pipe, directive, whatever, I need to declare a class. We use annotations, which is an Angular thing. I think this is the most popular usage in front end, in annotations and decorators, maybe Nest.js, but that's a different story. So I need to declare a class. I'm going to use annotations. I've got a separate file for a template. And now I don't need constructors. I can write functions and mix the functions into my classes. So I've got some mixed feeling about this direction, because I can see how it makes my code like simple in a way, or more flexible and enable me new features. But how it makes it hard to a new Angular developer to to understand what should I use. What's going on here? It's not functions. It's not purely classes. What's the relationship? And I can see it already, to be honest. I've seen an article of someone who implemented, for the listener who familiar with React, and I believe most of the front-end developers at least familiar with React. I've already seen an Angular developer create a hook with Angular, vanilla Angular, using the new inject function, because now it's standalone, so you don't have to create a class in order to inject. And he called this hook use effect and declare it inside an Angular component. So it's kind of, I've got some mixed feeling about it. Now, the other features, I mean, they're blessed. I mean, now we've got typed forms. Let's continue with this. Let's continue strengthen the types in Angular. Standalone components, again, great feature, but in a way, it reduced the amount of code that we need to write. It's a blessing for an experienced Angular developer, because we can think of virtual modules. We don't need Angular modules. We can think about, all right, I've got standalone pipes and standalone directives, and I fully understand how DI works, and I can compose them together into pieces of code. It might be easy for us, but recently I had the opportunity to teach new Angular developers, first time seeing Angular, and it was confusing because Angular modules might be redundant. We don't really need them. But on the other hand, that was still, if you ask me, like the selling, like that's Angular. That's the uniqueness of Angular. I believe that thinking in Angular modules, it's a little bit easier than thinking about you've got different pieces of code. You still need to declare the dependencies, but now every class and every decorator become bigger. Like the imports array moved from the module to a component in order to be standalone. So I hope I was clear enough. So my, I mean, just mixed emotions. I really hope that the Angular team won't push it too far, and Angular won't become some, we've got so many ways to do something. Use modules, don't use modules, use constructors, don't use constructors, use classes and functions, use just functions. So I really hope that it won't end up being like a very confused and inconsistent framework.
You're listening, Angular Master Podcast. Listen, code, repeat. Everything you need to know to become an Angular super developer.
Which other UI frameworks do you use?
I'm working as the tech lead in a company called Next Insurance. So on my day job, we've got Angular apps, obviously. It's always Angular, part of me. And we've got our public site build with the React and Next.js. So if the listeners are not familiar with Next, although it's very popular, it's like a framework on top of React. So Next.js, personally, I'm touching both. In recent years, I'm working with Angular and with React on my professional life. On my free time, my side projects is written with, I've got one project, actually it's already the third project, written with Flutter. And now I'm working on my own private app, and I write it down with the Remix in React. My personal website built with Gatsby. So I'm trying to touch a lot of frameworks because I found that it makes me a better UI developer. I'm not saying front-end developer. I'm using the term UI developer because all of the framework trying to solve basically the same problem. and give you tools, declarative tools, usually declarative way to build user interfaces. And once you work with several UI frameworks, eventually you get you're starting to see the pattern that's common between all of them, and you're starting to think about it's very, very easy to get better in any of these frameworks because all of them work on the same principle by the end of the way. Was it clear enough?
Yes.
Yeah. So Flutter, React, and Angular, this is the main technologies that I'm used on a daily basis. And take the opportunity, in weekends to learn something new, not for production, not for any project, just to open my mind.
Nir, tell us a little bit about your meetups.
Yeah, of course. Meetups are like a very, very important part of my lives, of my life, not lives. Meetup, yeah. Well, meetup in a way become my social life because I dedicated myself to the craft and I like it. And like I said before, building software is both my job and my hobby. And because I'm always try to keep myself busy and my head works, I don't have too much opportunity. I didn't have too much opportunity to share it with others, even to talk with others people, because you sit with yourself and you're trying to get better because you like it. And I discovered meetups. I discovered this concept of people who's coming together, getting to know each other, share knowledge with each other, and everything is free. And we are 2022. I think my first meetup was 2014 or 13. Yeah, 9 years ago. So I was invited to talk in Angular Israel meetup. It was the second meetup because AngularJS just become popular. And that was it. Since then, I took an active part. I've been an organizer, a co-organizer, and a contributor of meetups in Israel, Europe, United States. And for years, in any given time, there are at least 3 different meetups that I keep alive. I keep it alive. I keep it organized. I am doing the best to bring people on. And it's become a part of my life. It's become like it's complete my life. It's the balance between social life, the enjoyment of sharing knowledge and learn. So it go both ways. An opportunity to know new people, especially when I start to travel the world and being guest in other meetups. And actually yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, I started a completely new meetup, which is pushing the boundaries of a technology meetups to the edge. Take a hike. It's a meetup combined with off-road adventures. In Israel, we've got a lot of nature all around us. And the first meetup going to be in November after JS Poland, where it's going to be 2 days. It's going to be a meetup, a technical meetup, a workshop, which going to bring people to one of the to a south city in Israel, which is very far from the center. And then we're going to do an overnight and sleep together in tents, in camping. And then on Friday morning, we're going to get on off-road vehicles and go out to a trip in a desert.
Wow.
So meetups become something very special for me that I'm always trying to push it a little bit further and to see how I can bring technology, people, and interesting activities together. So that's like a fresh new thing hopefully it would be great. But I'll share some pictures. So if you listen to this and you wanna see what's gonna happen with this, just follow up on Facebook, Twitter, whatever.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. We have to share a link to this meetup.
Of course. Take a hike. That's the name.
Let's go back to Angular. Where to start learning this beautiful framework? What to pay special attention to? And what can we skip at the beginning?
That's a great question, because Angular is a huge framework. There is a lot of API. The documents got better, but it's still not there. There is a huge community, which means there's a lot of resources out there. A lot of videos, a lot of blog posts, a lot of new Angular developers are confused. They usually start with trying to start with the official tutorial, but then discover that it's not good enough for them. And there is a very, very popular video course on Udemy. My recommendation probably will be a video course, not on Udemy, on a website called Frontend Masters, where there is a Google developer expert in Angular, which build and maintain, I believe, again, that's my opinion. I watched it all. I never recommend without seeing it myself. I believe that's the most fundamental, clean, and professional Angular course out there. I will be more than happy to share the link. I believe that a fresh new Angular developer should start with only one video course, and try to keep focused, try to filter all the noise around it, not try to learn Angular with the course and the documentation and blog posts and some random YouTube videos. Just start a video course. There's an instructor there. It's going to take you from 0 to 100. Finish it, and then start build something. I mean, that's ideally if you're just if you're not working with Angular. I mean, it's not like a very special recommendation. I mean, it's probably most of the people will say find a course that you feel comfortable with. But I'll tell you another thing. My recommendation is that once you start feeling comfortable with Angular, once you learn the basic, it's gonna be hard, but try to filter the endless opinions out there, including mine. Try to adopt the principle of keeping it simple. Because in Angular, once you dive in, like any other modern framework, we talked about it at the beginning. State management. All right, so should I learn NGRX? Should I use Akita? Should I use another framework with Angular because I have to manage it? No, you don't have to. You've got services, you've got singletons, start with this. All right, Angular, should I use reactive form? Should I use template form? Well, wait a second. Think about what you're going to build. If it's simple and template-driven forms works for you, that's what you should use. Even if you heard a group of Angular experts saying that, no, if you want to get professional, if you want to build robust forms, you have to get familiar with reactive forms. But what if I'm not building an enterprise level complex app? What if all I've got is simple form and template-driven forms work for me? What I'm trying to say is that core Angular API give us everything, basically everything we need. And it might sound funny, but I found, like, as a teacher, as an instructor, I found out from feedbacks that new developers with Angular find it much more easy to, for example, to manage state using services and dependency injection, like the most basic Angular app that you can think of, and not with all the other libraries. and they can build wonderful stuff, and it's much easier. They're in control. So that would be my recommendation. I mean, use what you need. Start with core Angular, and add more libraries only if you're blocked. You come into a situation where you feel you're starting to lose control on your code, and your first steps should be filter everyone. And like I said before, including myself, they're just gonna be confuse you. We work with Angular for years, so it's kind of second nature for us. So we've got opinions. We did some stuff. We know what works and what's not. But if you're new to it, it's going to be overwhelming. You're going to lose yourself. Keep yourself focused. Use core API. Think software. Don't focus too much about the framework API. Use your logic. That's probably going to work. Because one thing that a lot of Angular evangelists is not saying is that there is no right and wrong. I don't hear it too much in Angular context. I'm always here like, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of talks out there, and the title is Best Practices. There is a lot of experience, great developers that advocate. That's the Angular way. This is how you should do it. That's the way to do it. If you're doing it like different, it's not good enough. I can give one example to the listeners, like RxJS, which is a whole subject by itself. Reactive programming is a complex topic, even without Angular. And one of the things that a lot of new developers struggle with is obviously how to use observables, because it takes some time to get used to it, to adjust your thinking, to get into this mental mode. And one of the things that I suggest, I show them that all the important core API in Angular designed to work with either an observer or a promise, which caught them by surprise. Because then you discover that the async py works with promise as well. You discover that you can build reactive apps with promises and everything works. You discover that RxJS actually exposed two methods, which are totally valid. It's not considered to be a workaround, to translate an observable to a promise, because sometimes it just makes your life easier. And it's very unpopular opinion to use promises in Angular, but this is the thing that I'm talking about. You started with Angular. You need to make an API call, a simple API call that brings you back an object that you want to display. You're familiar with promises. You're familiar with the async await syntax. You know it before because you used JavaScript before. Now you're into Angular. And the entire world saying, no, Angular, fully reactive, RxJS, observables anyway, you have to learn it, otherwise you can't build anything. But that's not true. Use async await because it just got started, and it's valid, and it makes sense, and Angular supported. That's, I believe, the way to go. Once you feel more comfortable and easily dive into the world of RxJS, you can make the decision if it solves a problem for you or just make things more complex. So keep it simple, guys, and use common sense, and ignore the experts in the beginning. Listen to them later on, but don't adopt their opinions as first steps. They're just going to confuse you. Don't listen to me. Okay? That's what I'm trying to say.
What is your recommendation for creating an Angular project from scratch today?
I would say when you create, well, of course, use the CLI, create a new project. That's the basic. And then, well, I don't want to spoil the surprise that I'm preparing for NG Poland, but the first thing that I'm doing in a fresh new Angular project is visit the main TS file and turn ng-zone to none. No zone.js, no automatic change detection, if I'm starting a project from scratch. Now, other frameworks don't have like the let's take React, for example, because it's easy. It's become one of the most popular tools to build UI outside library. The concept of some proxy like ng-zone that sits out there, a catch async events and a trick change detection is kind of almost unique to Angular. I'm not sure 100%, but it's like 99% that I don't think that there is any other framework that uses Zone.js, specifically Zone.js. I think it's an Angular thing. Now, in other frameworks, you manipulate some data, and then you want to trigger change detection. So you either use observable, or you've got a method like in React. You've got useState, setState, and you've got the same concept in Angular. Every component can inject the change detector, and you can call a specific method called detect changes. Now, if you want to try Angular in a very, very different way that I believe will bring you to wonderful places, start a project, shut down Zone.js, which means that nothing's going to automatically update. And then from day one, you're in control. You change something, there is a set timeout somewhere, there's an API call. You can decide whether you want to update the UI, run change detection, or not. If you want to update the UI, you're going to have to explicitly call the method detect changes. Because one of the most confusing part of Angular and the source of a lot of bugs is change detection runs automatically. So we use zone flags and a lot of other techniques. My best recommendation today, guys, try it, give it a try. Angular, the whole framework, can work amazingly without it. Check out Michael RxJS, you know which Michael I'm talking about.
Exactly.
I call him Michael, but I believe we pronounce the name wrong.
Michael is okay.
Michael. Look at his wonderful work. He actually contributed to NGRX to build some directives that can give you the push directive and the let. And Angular can be fully reactive, fully controlled without Zone.js. So try this. That's going to be my very unpopular because I believe I don't have any prior knowledge. I just from my feeling and experience with Angular. The future of Angular is zoneless. In some point, the Angular team gonna start pushing to we don't need Zone.js, and you can still use Angular. It's gonna be fully reactive. Maybe the API will get a little bit better to trigger change detection, and Zone.js will be the future of Angular. So you started from scratch. Start without Zone.js. In any point of time, you can bring it back and everything works automatically. But give yourself a chance. That's my unpopular recommendation.
Next question is about IDE. What IDE are you using and why is it Webstorm?
I use Webstorm for years, and I tell a secret now for all of the listeners, because if you ever seen one of my talks, I've got my usual jokes on like almost, I think, every other code editor out there, which is not Webstorm. Actually, people sometimes ask me if I get paid by JetBrains to advocate for Webstorm, so I don't get paid at all. And why do I use Webstorm? Just because I used to it. That's it. And my agenda in life is, if you do something, focus on one thing and master it. Do just invest your time in one thing, do one thing and do it as good as possible. Now, it doesn't really matter if you choose Webstorm, VS Code, any other editor that you find useful. It doesn't really matter. But a lot of developers, they start working with an ideal code editor, and this is like the most important tool for us as developers. And they don't invest enough time to actually master this tool. And then at some point, they start to ask myself, all right, maybe I should switch. Maybe, all right, VS Code feels it's not fast enough. I'll try Webstorm. Webstorm is slow. I'll try this. Oh, I've seen this talk and use Sublime Text. I might use this. So I use Webstorm because I believe take one tool, learn it, and that's it. You don't really need to spread around. It's just gonna confuse you and hurt your career development if you replace your CAD editor from time to time, or if you didn't invest enough time. You know that in Webstorm, well, it's kind of Webstorm, but I invested a lot of time to learn this IDE. 100%. And I even took it a step further. You know that my if the listeners, hopefully, they're gonna come and visit NG or JS Poland, and I hope they're gonna see my talk. Even the color theme that I'm using is, first of all, it's a paid color theme. I'm paying for the color theme because it's very important to me to do the best that I can, even when it's come to colors in my IDE. So why Webstorm? Because I master it and I feel comfortable with it, and I don't look around at all. That's even technology. Let's say that for some reason you are still a PHP developer in 2022, and you feel very, very comfortable with PHP. That's your language. Well, technically, you can build everything. And the end user, they're going to use your app. It doesn't really care if you wrote it with PHP or JavaScript or Java. The end user doesn't really care if you used VS Code or you code it with Webstorm. The only people who actually care about which language do you use or which code editor you use is us, the developers. Something wrong with us. The user care about, does the app that you build is useful, is fast, is fun to use, got a great UX. You see where I'm heading with this? So guys, I make a lot of fun on VS Code, but choose one. You choose VS Code, great. Invest some time and master your tool, your code editor. It's gonna pay off eventually. There is no perfect programming language. Any programming language got a problem. There is like popular programming language and trends, but by the end of the day, when I sit to build my side project, I'm going to choose, and that's my recommendation, especially for not just junior developers, but developers in general. Eventually, the best decision that I can make is to choose the technology that I'm comfortable with, which is my safe zone, because it will enable me to work faster and not, try to learn something and mess with other stuff. PHP, it doesn't even matter if it's popular or not popular. It doesn't even matter if it's if you're using the new shiny version or you stuck like 5 years ago. Nothing matters. It matters that you're familiar with it, you feel comfortable with it. That's your safe zone, and you can build your apps very, very fast as a developer and focus on what you're building. Same for frameworks. You asked me before, why Angular? Angular because I know Angular very well. So I'm going to build apps with Angular, even if 100 developers going to sit down and say, this is too much. Your app is too simple. Why did you choose Angular? Because I know Angular, which enable me to focus on what I'm building. The framework is transparent for me. Both of us are musicians. A nice example that I like to give to people is like people who play the guitar. Whatever, I know you are a bass player, but it doesn't really matter. Same thing. When we first learn how to play, you focus on the guitar. You look at your finger. You look at the strings. It's not natural. And in some point in your career, the guitar becomes transparent. You don't think about it. You don't need to look or where you put your finger on. You focus on the music. So that's my agenda, and it's about Angular, and it's about Webstorm. Take one framework, take one IDE, master it until it becomes transparent, and you don't waste any time struggling with the framework, with the tool, and you can focus of the creation.
The $1,000,000 question. Best ideas to optimize a slow-running large front-end application.
First of all, I'm going to do some promotion, but it's a good promotion because it's a promotion for a meetup. That I hope I don't spoil the surprise, although I am subscribed to the mailing list of NG Poland, and I've seen that there is going to be a meetup on October 20. Correct me if I'm wrong.
October 20, exactly.
And I'm going to be there, and I'm going to talk about exactly this, some useful techniques, practical techniques to make things faster. It's going to be specific Angular, of course, but to answer your question, base ideas is, first of all, to understand that there is no general checklist that you can apply to every application, and that's just going to work. Because sometimes you hear experienced developer or consultant saying, "All right, you have a slow running app," even without looking at the code, even without looking at what's going on, they instantly they've got a checklist. All right, do a lazy loading, do this, do that, and do this and do that, and it's going to be better. Sometimes, and sometimes developers just say, "All right, my Angular app is slow. My React app is slow. I'm going to search through the internet. I'm going to find the first article that says, here are 10 techniques to make your app faster." And there are great techniques. And you're going to apply them line by line, and your app will still going to be slower. Actually, I can give a great practical real-world example to the listeners. Angular and lazy loading. So in one of our core systems, we decided the performance need to be improved. And it's a large app, and we've got a lot of Angular modules. And the best practice is let's lazy load all the modules. And even another best practice would say all the modules should be lazy loaded, but you can preload them. Angular got a built-in preloading strategy. So you can load your app module, your initial module, and then in the background, keep loading all the other modules so you enjoy both worlds. You've got like a code splitting, you're loading just what you need, your app should start faster. In the background, you load all the other modules, and well, it's supposed to be faster. This is like by the book. And guess what? The app's still slow. And then we dived into it. I dived into it and I discovered that in Angular, when you preload a module, all the initialized code that belongs to this module is running, which means that if you preload all modules, you're running a lot of JavaScript, and some of that might block the UI thread. I'm gonna show all of this in the meetup, but what I'm trying to say is that the best advice of these very abstract questions, what's your recommendation for handling slow apps, is first of all, understand that there is no checklist out there. Whatever works for me won't work for you. So invest enough time to investigate what's actually makes your app slow instead of just jump on, watch some talks, read some articles, and start, going through the checklist. Because you might find yourself after 2 weeks of applying all the techniques in the world, you find out that your app is still slow. And then you're going to sit down and ask yourself why it's slow. And then you discover that everything is fine. You just have a lot of images that you can optimize. Or something wrong with the CSS. It's got nothing to do with the framework. Or a third-party library that got some infinity loop inside of it.
I have one more question about Webstorm, if I may ask. How do you start learning this great tool?
Oh, that's a great question. Webstorm, one of the common mistakes is to think that Webstorm, once you install it, it's ready to use. But actually, Webstorm is it needs some customization before you can use it. And some developers not even aware of it. Now, you won't be surprised, but I've got to talk about it, which I can share the link. It's called How to Play the Webstorm, how to fine-tune it like an instrument. So basically, there are two things. How do you start to learn Webstorm? First of all, you have to tune it up. Otherwise, you're going to have a very, very, very bad experience. And there's a checklist for it. You need to disable all the plugins that you don't need. Otherwise, it's just going to confuse you. You need to fine-tune the memory, the memory heap that allocated to Webstorm. Otherwise, you will try to learn Webstorm, but it's going to stuck. It's going to be slow, so you're going to have your experience. And then the next tip will be master the key shortcuts, but the default shortcuts, not something custom. Because once you, I'm remembering when I decided that I want to master Webstorm, every action that I did manually, I stopped and looked for a keyboard shortcut. Not because I wanted to be cool and not use the mouse, and it's like just because when you memorize shortcuts and you're looking for shortcuts, at least it worked for me. Stuff gets into your brain. I mean, don't just use the IDE. It's like in other things. I'm using Webstorm. I want to do something. I wanted to be able to select multiple lines. I don't know how to do it. A lot of developers, they won't even spend a minute to read the docs because, all right, I'm not sure how to do it. Maybe it's not supported. Maybe I'll learn it later. And I'm saying no, even if you're in the middle of your work, I mean, invest 2 minutes. You want to do something doesn't work. Everything works fine, but you just want to focus on one feature. For example, one of the things I mastered are all the side panels. And then one of the other things that I mastered, I dedicated a month just to learn and master the Git integration in Webstorm. The Git integration in Webstorm, it's an entire world. Now, a lot of developers use a desktop GUI for Git because they don't know that inside of Webstorm, you've got amazing Git support. So they invest their time to use other tool and get out of the IDE. My recommendation, another tip to learn Webstorm, don't leave the IDE. You need to do something. Don't just jump to the terminal, open up another tool. You know that Webstorm got a built-in database support? Not a lot of people even know this. You can actually visualize your database. Webstorm have built-in UML support. With few keystrokes, you can get a nice diagram of all of your code. So I think that the best tip of how to master Webstorm, you're working, you need to do something. The easiest thing to do, get out of the IDE, open another tool. Don't do it. Just stay inside your IDE and dig deeper, and you'll find out that you can do everything because IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, and then you will master Webstorm.
How do you manage life-work balance? Do you have time for hobbies?
I combine them together. That's the secret. That's the top secret. Because these questions, a lot of people, they see what I'm doing in my life and they come to me and tell me, how? How do you have the time for it? And what about other stuff? What all the things that you do just coding? And they know I'm not just coding, I'm doing other stuff. Like music and off-road driving and a lot of other hobbies, photography, for example. I found that the only way to keep growing with your professional career happily and keep your life-work balance is to actually, take this term life-work balance, and let's give it another term. Take your hobbies and find a way to how they can naturally be part of your professional life if you want. Yeah. Actually, we talked about it a few questions ago. I give another example. At the beginning, a lot of people struggle. I want to drink beer with my friends, but I also want to take this time after work and get better with some technology. So I've got a dilemma. I don't want to stay without friends, and it's important for your soul, to sit with guys. But on the other hand, I really, really want to take this time and learn because I don't have any other time. So how can you get better and meet some friends, drink beer, and get better in your career? Combine it together. Go to a meetup. You're gonna talk with people that works with you in the meetup itself. You're gonna hear some lectures. You can talk about stuff that you do. And then after the meetup, you can sit down and drink beer. So you're gonna have new and old friends. Music, for example. I don't have time for music, but I love music. So I started to combine these two hobbies together. There's a very old project that you're aware of called the Frontend Band. Since then, it was evolved to different things, but it's still alive. Up until now, I'm working in a big company in Israel, in our R&D center. We are like a few hundreds. And we just came up with an office band, and we play together every week, just for fun, just to keep it alive. When I sit at night, now I'm talking with you on this podcast. The listeners can't see what's going on around me. But once I'm done with this, I'm going to take an hour and sit on my music. And when I sit on my music, it's going to help me. When I create my music, I'm inside my inspiration zone, and I'm thinking about nice things that I would like to bring to my talks at NG Poland. So I just find a way to combine them together, like this new meetup. I really like to go outside. I want to go to a trip on the desert with my off-road vehicle. I don't want to do it alone. I want to bring friends with me. But I also want to keep it to share my knowledge. Let's combine it together. Let's create a meetup. And this meetup intended for people for other developers. And it was published 2 days ago, and there's already a group of 20 people that want to come to hear a meetup and go to a trip on the desert. So that's the trick. Life balance is important, but I believe, and for all the listeners right now, this is my belief. Be careful, because everything got pros and cons. But I discovered that if you look at work-life balance by saying, this is work, cut, this is life, that's not going to work. Never. It's parallel. Unless your work as a developer is just a work, you don't love it, you hate it, it's just another day job, it pays the bills, and you wake up early morning, you do the best that you can during your work hours, and then once, 5 p.m., you forget all about coding, go home and do completely different things, which is 100% fine. Most of the people that I know, they love it. So that's the tip. Life-work balance. Don't even try to cut it out and say this is work, this is life. Find a way to bring your life into work in a good way. Yeah, there are bad ways to do it, and your work into your life if you like it, and then it's a win-win situation.
What advice would you give to people who are starting their career in the software world today, and what for those who are old-timers?
Yeah, well, people who starting their careers, I will give the exact opposite advice of what I just talked about. Put limits, because a lot of a lot of tips that you hear out there for junior developers are, all right, you're a junior developer. You want to build your professional career? Coding, 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 coding from sunrise till sunset, and build projects and build your portfolio and read books. But once you get a little bit older, you understand that there is a limit of how much your brain can think about.
Digest,
exactly. That's the word I was looking for. So my best tip for beginners is the exact opposite. You want to get better. There are few effective hours when your brain can digest and you can fully understand what you're doing. Don't sit the whole day long writing code, because in some point it's not going to get into your brain. You're just going to have great muscles in your fingers. So you started, dedicated 4 hours, 5 hours of learning, coding, and then go ahead and do something else. Which is, again, this is like the complete opposite of like the tip. And for your questions, like older developers, yeah, not juniors. When you find your place in the software industry, then you're ready for the next step, and then you can start doing this work-life balance the way I see it. Then you know yourself, and you can put your hobbies inside of it and everything, and it looks like you're doing coding and software all day long, but that's not the truth. So guys, if you're listening and you just got started, don't listen to anyone who tell you that in order to start your career as a junior software developer, you have to sit 24/7 and code. You will find out, if you're brave enough to take this advice, you will find out that if you do the exact opposite and you spend few effective hours of learning and development and the rest of the day doing stuff that makes you feel good, you'll become better sooner than you think.
2 books you would recommend to our listeners, one technical and one non-technical.
I know it's like very popular to say, but I don't care, because I don't think about what's popular. I think about what I like. I think that Uncle Bob Clean Code is still my most favorite book about software crafting ever. It's still this book. I haven't read another book that actually I enjoyed reading and helped me think about my craft better. So that's for me, that's the classic, that's the best book that ever written. It doesn't really matter if you like Uncle Bob. If you don't know Uncle Bob, check out this person. But I believe that's the best book. But generally speaking, if you're looking for a book and you just got started, even if you've not just got started, my advice will be, don't go for technical API books about frameworks and tools. Look for books that are more like philosophic, or like open your mind about thinking about software development, and not just technical books like the book that I wrote. You can read it, but it's just describing API and some practical techniques. I wouldn't choose it as a book to open my mind. I choose it as a reference. That's the technical part. So Uncle Bob Clean Code for sure. Non-technical, honestly, I don't remember when was the last time that I read a book which is not technical. Oh, you know what? There is one, but it's I can't recommend it to anyone because it's very specific. So I give my personal recommendation. If you're into electronic music and you felt into the amazing world of synthesizers, there is a book called Patch and Tweak that dives into the anti-material world of how do you create sound with pure electricity. It's about synthesize and life and history, which is an amazing book. I'm going to share the link because maybe one of the listeners is into this world. So yeah, so So I think that's the only book that I read, which is, again, it's not technical, but it's very specific to my hobby.
Amazing. How do you remember your last visit to Poland?
Last or first?
Last. You can also tell us about the first one if you want.
No, I tell you what I'm asking because, today for all the listeners who doesn't know my history with Dark, like 7 years, I think. It's been 7 years.
7 years ago, yeah.
I mean, it's going to be NG Poland number 7.
Yeah.
And I remember that you invited me to the first one. Because I'm saying this because today, Warsaw become like, I feel in Warsaw like my second home. I feel natural, I feel comfortable with the people, with the culture, with the community of developers. At the first visit, I didn't know what to expect. New culture, new city, first visit. My last visit, unfortunately, I was supposed to come in person, but COVID-19 caught me like, it was COVID-19? Yeah. I believe that the first one. Yeah, I got it twice since then. Yeah, so I visited, my last visit in Poland was online, unfortunately, but the one before it was amazing. Because I feel so comfortable and so happy and so natural with the community in Poland, with the people around me. I think the last one, it was the one when I was dressed like I don't even know how to call it. The guy with the mustache, which actually it doesn't have a name. It does. You know what I'm talking about, no? The last conference before COVID. Of course you are. I was dressed like I don't know what it is, but it's disturbing. But it just means that, I feel comfortable. I feel open. I feel that I can be myself and have fun with everyone around me. So my last visit in Poland, when I was in person, it was like just good things and good vibes. I don't have anything bad or strange to say about this visit. Long
That's
history,
amazing.
my friend, 7 years.
7 years, exactly. That's amazing. It's hard to believe, but it's 7 years.
Hard to believe. 7 years.
So what we can expect at your appearance at NG Poland and JS Poland this year?
Oh, well, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I'm going to tell the listeners this, all right? I've got a very special relationship with this conference, with this event in general, and with the amazing organizer that right now I'm speaking with. But put my relationship with Dariusz, that's your name, yeah? I call you Darek.
Darek is a shortcut.
Darek is a shortcut. But putting aside my friendship with Darek, what did you expect? First of all, for NG and JS Poland, I'm always take the time and my inspiration to bring something fresh and to talk about something in a way that I haven't talked before in any other conference. I'm a public speaker. I'm moving around conferences. I'm doing my best to bring fresh content. Sometimes, that's the same topics, just a different talk, but JS Poland and NG Poland got a very special place in my heart. So you should expect, if you're following me, personally, if you had a chance to see one of my talks before, you should expect something new. You should expect something fresh. You should expect having fun, hopefully, because I believe that having fun is very, very important, and it won't hurt some very professional stuff that I'm going to share with you. Yeah, and you can expect, I don't know, come and say hi. Let's talk. Let's talk after the talk. Let's have a beer together.
Amazing. Nir, thank you Thank you so much for today's conversation.
Thank you.
A lot of great tips, a lot of great knowledge. And and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the stage in Warsaw very soon. Thank you so much.
Very, very soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Finally, please subscribe to our podcast, leave a like and a comment to help us continue to grow.